following is a local resident producers program. The program content is the sole responsibility of the producer and does not necessarily reflect the views or policies of CATV2, Oshkosh Community Media Services, the City of Oshkosh, or TimeWarner Cable.
Welcome to another edition of Oshkosh Area Politics. My name is Ben Schneider, and today I'm joined with Tony Palmeri, in which we'll be discussing Paul Esslinger's candidacy to the 54th Assembly District. The seat is currently being held by Democrat Gordon Hintz, and since Paul is a co-host on this program, we have another co-host by the name of Tony Palmeri joining us. Tony, thanks for joining us.
Thank you guys for inviting me. Appreciate it.
Well, we thought it'd be kind of silly if Paul would be a interviewer and a guest on the program at the same time. We are pioneers in our show, but we thought that'd be a little inappropriate. So,
all right.
In the interest of full disclosure, I want to tell everybody that I am Paul's campaign treasurer. So that is in part why Tony is going to be doing the bulk of the interviewing this evening. So Paul, welcome to the program as a guest.
Hey, I like being on this side of the fence. It's really nice.
Well, we'll see how you do.
Hope you guys treat me well here.
Well, I don't know what Tony has in store for you. I have some questions.
I'm not worried about him. I'm worried about you.
Well, let's just start with the obvious one. Why did you decide to run against Gordon Hintz?
Oh, many reasons. I'm a supporter of Act 10, Governor Walker's budget proposals, and I think that they're strongly needed, and I think that those proposals are in jeopardy. And as you mentioned, Gordon Hintz, Democrat, now holds that chair, did vote against those proposals, that budget rather, and I want to have a conservative voice in the 54th Assembly District. So I guess that's the main reason. But in every election, I think both of you, both being members of an elected body, it's always nice for citizens to be able to go to the polls and have choices. When they go to the poll, and I don't mean choices in which three Republicans do you want to choose from. I mean, we're talking about two vast differences here. I mean, Gordon, in my view, is more of a bigger government liberal, and I'm a small government conservative. So I'm assuming Gordon is running. I don't know that to this point. We're taping on May 8th, but I'm assuming that he will be the candidate. And so I want to have that conservative voice, and people will have a vast choice.
All right. Now, Paul, you're running as a Republican, but you've said many times that you consider yourself more of an independent. Yeah. So tell us then, where do you disagree with the Republican Party?
That's a great question how you pose that, Tony. Yeah, I was going to run as an independent. And that's not a slam or a slap against the Republican Party. It's my determination of the Republican Party, whether it be local or state or national. I'm a very fiscal conservative. Obviously, there are issues, social issues, right. But putting those aside for right now, I want to talk about the financial issues. And when I was on the council, when you were on the council, we worked with people that called themselves Republicans. And, they hounded me for my votes, what I thought were conservative votes, and they called themselves Republicans. So, I was confused as to how they can call themselves Republicans. And, quite frankly, I didn't want to be associated with a group that they were associated with. The people that I worked with in the past, and, I think we know full well some of the names of the people that we worked with that call themselves Republicans. I didn't want to be called a Republican because I was an independent voice. Two reasons why I decided to run as a Republican. From a political standpoint, it just makes more sense. I mean, you're going to get more votes running in one of the parties. Unfortunately, that's the case. Mm-hmm. Whether it be a Republican or Democrat, I really wish people would vote based on the issues,
Right.
and kind of put those things aside.
But it sounds like you think, correct me if I'm wrong, it sounds like you're saying that the Wisconsin Republican Party is not fiscally conservative enough. That if you get into the assembly, you're going to push for even more fiscal conservatism.
Right. Well, there were, I think, was it 4 Republicans that voted against Governor Walker's budget.
Okay.
And, you know, I know the people that run the Republican Party, Joe and Diane Malecki. You know, I had a chance to talk to them on occasion. Very hardworking people. I really like those guys a lot. And there are some other people that I've talked to in the Republican Party here. I think they're trying to weed out some of the people that really aren't conservatives.
Right.
So, you know, I was comfortable with running as a Republican.
But you supported Act 10, the governor's budget repair. I take it because you thought it was fiscally conservative.
Yes.
Okay. So in Oshkosh, as you know, there's lots of city workers. There's lots of county workers. There's lots of state employees. Obviously, there's UW employees. Lots of people that are you know, paid by tax dollars. So, and those are a large part of the people voting.
Yeah.
Okay, so explain to those voters why they should favor your candidacy over Gordon Hintz. Because you seem to think that those folks are not paying enough toward pension and health care and probably making too much money.
Yeah, making too much money. No, I think that might be a little bit too harsh. I know where you're going with that. No, I guess several different things I would say there, Tony. My father was a firefighter in Oshkosh for over 30 years.
And a union man.
And he was the president of the Oshkosh Firefighters Union for a time.
And he loved collective bargaining.
Yeah, he did.
So what happened to you?
Well, you have to remember, collective bargaining, when he was talking about it, was in the late 70s. And the reason collective bargaining came into being is because municipal employees at that time were really kind of, I don't want to say behind the 8 ball, but when you compared municipal employees to the private sector, their health care benefits were not good. And so we wanted to incent people to become public employees. And so when the collective bargaining was ratified several years ago, back then I would have supported that. But like as time goes on, you have to keep reviewing these things. And it just became a monster. And you know, you and I were both in budget hearings where we were supposed to be negotiating contracts, and you know, that's a joke. There was no negotiation with those contracts. You had comparable cities that you had to model yourself after, and quite frankly, your hands were tied. And it wasn't how much they were going to get. I mean, it wasn't if they were going to get a raise. It was how much of a raise they're going to get. While their salary and benefit packages were going up, the people that had to pay those salary and benefits, they were becoming unemployed, underemployed. We had people coming up to council meetings during the flooding. Past councils had put the flood abatement issues off to the side because they couldn't afford it, and there were other reasons. And so I view this as the people that have to pay those bills have been paying those bills for over 30 years now, and they kept on rising and rising and rising while their salary and benefits were going down or remaining the same. So something clearly had to change.
Do you want to cut in here, Ben? Or
I'm actually enjoying the questioning. And
Okay.
for the record, I actually, I know when I invited you to be on the program, I didn't want to know the questions you were going to ask because I thought this should be authentic. Obviously, Paul's a friend. I'm his treasurer. And I think it's good to ask the questions because a lot of viewers might be thinking the same thing. So, I do have a question, but you're on a roll.
Oh, I'm on a roll, okay.
You go.
Well, one thing that you and I connected on when we were on the city council together was the idea of open government and transparency, right? So you said you support Act 10, but Act 10, it seems to me, was one of the least transparent, least open pieces of legislation we've ever had in the state. I mean, very few, if any, public hearings, passed in the middle of the night. So just on strict open government grounds, how could you support that?
It was poor, to say the best. It was poor. I would not have handled it the way that the governor did. And to be fair, I think both parties have engaged in this type of activity.
True.
So it's not appropriate.
So if you were to get elected to the assembly, what would you do? Forget about Act 10. What would you do to push for open government and transparency? For example, currently, the members of the legislature are allowed to meet in closed partisan caucus. The Democrats get in one room, no press allowed in, no citizen allowed in. Then they come out with the strategy. Republicans in a closed room do the same thing.
Yeah.
Do you believe that we should end those closed caucuses?
Yeah.
All right, because there is a bill sponsored by a Democrat, Corey Mason, which you co-sponsor something like that.
Oh, absolutely. And I'll take that a step further, Tony. I know I sponsored, and I think you co-sponsored a resolution on the city council. We were sick and tired of going into these closed meetings at the city council. And you come out of these meetings, and I don't know if this happened to Ben being on the school board, you come out of these meetings and you heard things a week, 2 weeks, a month later that were going on in these closed sessions.
Yeah.
Something that you supposedly said or I said that wasn't anywhere near the truth.
Okay.
People in these closed sessions prop themselves up to whatever constituent they're talking to, which is absolutely, it's ridiculous to say the least, and it's shameful, quite frankly, to say the most. You know, we wanted to have these meetings taped.
Right.
And, you know, if it was a negotiation, obviously you can't release those tapes until such time, you know, where it would be appropriate. So I wanted to have those things. I want to have this as open as possible. I have no problem with any constituent seeing what I'm doing and listening to what I'm doing as far as these issues.
All right. And I do think Gordon supports that bill also. But as I go around town, Paul, the big issue on everybody's mind is jobs. Right? I mean, you're talking about fiscal conservatism, balancing the budget. I think people are interested in that, of course. But people are really concerned about job creation. So what is your view on what, if anything, can the government do for job creation? If you're in the assembly, what would you push for?
Well, number one is give incentives to businesses. And I know that's a real touchy issue. And that's coined by the liberals as the, how do they put it? The rich man's giveaway or something.
Well, is that what you're talking about? You just want to cut more taxes on rich people?
Well, I want businesses to feel comfortable and be able to start businesses in Oshkosh or in Wisconsin, where we create jobs. And when you create the jobs, that produces the taxes, and people have to buy homes in order to live in the area. That produces more taxes. So the more tax base that you have, the more money that you have going through the economy, the better. And to take that one step further, I was very disappointed in Assemblyman Hintz and State Senator King for voting against the mining bill. It's my understanding that the jobs created through the mining bill would have been roughly, I think, 2,500 or so, have a fiscal impact of a couple $2 billion in the state of Wisconsin. And for them to claim that they want to produce jobs and then vote no on that legislation and basically thumb their nose at this company that wants to come in and produce billions of dollars in the state of Wisconsin, I think was irresponsible.
Well, what if there was evidence that it was on a fast track, there wasn't enough time to investigate the environmental issues? Well, you think when it comes to jobs versus the environment, we go for jobs no matter what the environmental consequences?
No, I don't think so. But from what I was led to believe, all those environmental impacts had been studied, and that really, well, obviously that was an issue for some people, but that was a party line vote. I mean, and that's I don't know if this is part of your question or not, but that is one thing that I want to let potential people voting for me know. Although I'm running as a Republican, I am an independent person that will review things on an independent basis and not vote just party line.
Let me ask you another question about jobs. I think this will highlight maybe a difference between you and Mr. Hintz.
Do you want me to excuse myself?
No. Oh, you said you were.
You said you wanted him to ask the question.
Go ahead.
I mean, not the whole show. I mean,
Go ahead.
Well, I wanted.
It's your show.
You want if you want to continue with jobs, I want to go back to one topic. But since we're on jobs, why don't you finish up this line?
All right. One last thing on jobs. Gordon Hintz did advocate for $32 million in stimulus funds from the feds that we got to use on Highway 41. Now, based on your fiscal conservatism, would you have urged the state of Wisconsin not to take that stimulus money?
Tony, I didn't review that legislation, so I
but
think
as a general rule, you don't like the federal stimulus money. You think that's taxpayer dollars. That is,
well, it is, but I think the federal, whether the government, whether it be local, state, or federal, has a role, and clearly businesses are not going to be doing infrastructure unless, of course, it's through the process of letting out bids where they do that. So if money is coming from the federal government for infrastructure projects, that's what the taxpayer money is supposed to be for.
Okay. So something like the high-speed rail, would you have supported that?
No, absolutely not. No.
Would have created jobs.
Sure it would have.
All right, so but you support jobs for mining, but not for high-speed rail.
But that's a short-sighted view. When you look at into the future, once you've created the rails, you have to fuel the trains, you have to employ people on the trains, and the train was going to go from Madison to Milwaukee. It would have taken longer for you to get on that train, park your car, pay a fee to park your car, get on the train, go to Milwaukee, or vice versa, rent a car when you get to the other place, do your business and come back. It would have been more expensive and taken longer, and we would have spent millions, if not, I don't know, was it $1 billion or $2 billion or $2 billion when it was done for kind of a boondoggle.
All right, we could debate this the whole rest of the show.
But I think there is a difference. So the mining bill is a private corporation. Excuse me, the mining company is a private corporation. It would have been a self-sustaining entity.
The jobs stay for a long time.
Versus Amtrak, which is a government subsidized continuous boondoggle that just continues to take, it continues to need to be fed by the taxpayer each and every year. So I think there's a difference, but I'm not going to debate that with you, because we don't have three people debating an issue.
Yeah, and I think your behavior towards Dr. Palmeri is really shameful right now, and I think it needs to stop.
Actually, I want to talk about behavior of legislature.
I'm glad you guys think that mining is a sustainable development, though. But go ahead. We won't debate that. Go ahead.
Oh,
well, there's
okay.
a carrot put in front of our face.
Well, one question I had is, obviously I think your opposition will have a difficult time kind of labeling you as a party person because you're independent. You're not a very active person historically in party functions. You haven't had an R by your name like formally and participated in parades, and you haven't had a D by your name. So I think that a lot of people might say, well, where does Paul really stand? And you did talk about you running as an independent, but I guess my question is, are you more of an independent because you're truly independent, or are you more of an independent because both parties have misbehaved so bad where you just feel like each party has some good things to offer? Why are you an independent?
That's a great question. I mean, let's
go to commercial. Yeah. Play some. No.
No, I guess I am independent because in the years I've been in politics, Ben, I have seen both Democrats and Republicans with this nonsense of voting on the party lines. You get the phone call saying, hey, you're a Republican, you really should be voting this way. And I want to view things based on what I feel is best for this district, not what's best for the Republican Party and not what's best for the Democrat Party. So I think to be independent is to have an open mind and I want to assure people that I'm not going to play in those games. And you're talking about the parades. I wrote down when you mentioned that. People are encouraging me to be in the 4th of July parade, and I probably will not be in the 4th of July parade. And I think that, quite frankly, people with partisan politics probably shouldn't be in parades. I kind of view that as pandering.
But now you have a fire truck to ride down.
Yeah, I know. Well, it's not mine anymore.
Does it run?
Yeah, it does run.
Does it run?
Ask him.
I think city council members, in a nonpartisan position, that's fine to be in parades. School board members, I think, but you get these politicians walking up and down the street, and they got their little literature, whatever else. I see that.
I would encourage you to do it. That's called retail politics.
Yeah,
Paul.
I know.
Well, if you want to get elected to the state assembly, don't you have to meet people at that level?
You're not meeting them. You're just walking by them.
Yeah, but they get to see you. They get to shake your hand.
And every time I'm at a parade, I hear comments from people around me like, oh, here comes so-and-so again. Or don't they have something better to do today? Or why don't they, so.
Every time I saw Ben walk in a parade, I heard that comment.
I've never seen him walk in a parade.
You've heard it once?
That's right. You've never walked in a parade, have you?
You wrote in a convertible.
So you're on this show just saying you're just actually speaking half truths because I never was in a parade.
That's right.
Come on, shame.
You were never in a parade. That's true. I take it back.
Question for you, Paul. There's been a lot of there's a lot of venom going on in Madison. A lot of just hatred and protests. Do you think that the you know, your opposition has done a good job working with the other side. Do you feel that Gordon Hintz has been a collaborator, has been respectful of differing viewpoints, and do you think he's unified and provided unity to I guess, to get things moving forward?
Well, the short answer is no. And the reason I say that is two main reasons. When I think we all know, you know, he came unglued on the assembly floor. There's video of that when they were debating the Act 10 proposal. He went crazy. And I mean, that's one thing. I certainly can understand and appreciate people getting passionate, but I think it was a little bit embarrassing. But the thing that really troubled me the most is you know, his behavior towards Michelle Litchens, who was the 56th, 53rd Assembly District, when he explained you're effing dead. And you know, Tony, you had Michelle as a student. Ben, you know Michelle personally. Michelle Litchens is probably one of the nicest people I have ever met in my life. She's always got a smile on her face. In fact, I get mad at her sometimes because she's always got that smile on her face, and even when people are mad at her or screaming at her, she's still got that smile on her face. And you know, for someone, you know, you're on the assembly floor, and that type of behavior and outburst to a female representative, it was just clearly over the line. And you know, this is a liberal who always talks about compassion and working with the other side. If that's working with the other side, I don't ever want to see a representative working with the other side.
If you're elected, what can you do to kind of start to bring people together? Because I tell you, there's a lot of divisiveness, and I know it's because of disagreement, but as someone who's been on the school board for 9 years and getting outvoted all the time, I've never, I can think of, ever lost my temper, you know, lost my cool, basically lost control of my emotions. What can you do if you're elected to help repair this and start to get people to work together and start to kind of do the people's business?
Well, you do just that. You work with them. You talk to them. You listen to them, and you respect their opinion. Tony, you talked to open the show about the Act 10 and, you know, votes in the middle of the night, whatever. Had I been Governor Walker when I got into office, I would have assembled Democrats and Republicans and said, look, I just won an election. I talked about not having deficits anymore. Right. I'm serious about that. Now, what I need you Democrats and Republicans to do is, I want within a month or two, or whatever the time frame is, I want a proposal on my desk that will acknowledge no more deficits, and give some time for them to do that. And if they can't do it, then go ahead and do what he did.
Can I ask you a question about that, Paul? When Governor Walker was candidate Walker, he said that the state should use generally accepted accounting principles to balance the budget, right? They're called GAAP principles. Under those principles, Wisconsin would actually be in about a $2 billion structural deficit right now. So instead, he's using the old principles that he critiqued, right? Under the old principles that Doyle and McCallum were using, Governor Walker has balanced the budget. But under the GAAP principles, which he said were more rigorous and better suited to real-world accounting, we're in a deficit. So here's a place where you could be independent from the Republicans. Would you push for Governor Walker to stay true to his promise and go along with those GAAP principles, generally accepted accounting principles, which would put the state in more deficit?
I would say that I would review what that, I mean, I'm not familiar, and I don't want to mix
when he ran for office, he said, we use accounting principles in the state budget that are not used, and you're a finance guy, you know this.
Basically, what he cut to the chase, he wanted to get rid of the accounting gimmicks to balance the budget.
But now he's using the accounting gimmicks to balance the budget.
I do question your $2 billion number. I've seen it anywhere from 100 to 400 billion. So I don't know, maybe it was
100 to 400 million, you mean?
Yeah, 400 million. So I don't know if that was produced by the DNC, your number.
No, it was produced by Mike Hibsch, because the administration secretary, because in order to change Medicaid, they want to throw 50,000 people off the Medicaid rolls. They had to show the feds that we are in a deficit, right? So when they wrote their letter to the feds, they used those GAAP standards. By the way, we have people in Oshkosh on Medicaid. Do you think more people should be cut off the Medicaid rolls?
I have no idea. I mean, I'd have to review how many people are on Medicaid, how they get the Medicaid,
but
what the principles were.
Let's assume for the sake of argument that Governor Walker remains in office, and we don't know what that's going to mean.
I have no idea.
Let's assume he does, and Paul Esslinger's in the Assembly, and Governor Walker says, you know, to truly solve our budget problems, we got to knock several thousand people off Medicaid, and a good percentage of them, some percentage of them are from your district.
Yeah.
Would you support that?
I have never seen, whether it be at the state or the federal government, any plans or proposals of taking anyone off of Medicare or Medicaid. Never. I have seen proposals that would reduce in the future how people receive Medicare and Medicaid. But I think the thing that we see this with Paul Ryan's plan at the federal level, you see these commercials with him, throwing someone over the cliff with a wheelchair and saying that their Medicaid and their benefits and all this are going away, and it's just sheer nonsense. That's one of those political games that you play to spruce up your side. I think one of the things that government should do is set up safeguards.
But I know you like Newt Gingrich.
Yeah.
And Newt Gingrich called the Ryan plan right-wing social engineering.
Yeah, well, he was crazy.
You don't agree with that?
No, I don't agree with that.
Okay. Can I ask him a question about education?
Sure.
All right.
I don't have any education.
I have to ask your treasurer some permission here.
I
mean, you believe in job creation. Would you agree with me that a big part of a job creation economic development strategy has to be education, K through 12 and university?
Yeah, I would agree with that.
All right. I think we all agree with that. So having said that, don't you believe, Paul, that the governor's cuts to education, K through 12 and university, were just excessive?
Define the cuts.
We're talking about the hugest K through 12 cuts in the history of the state.
Is that before Act 10?
The Act 10 cuts. The Act 10.
Let's localize this for the district, and because I was on the school board. So what program was cut in the Oshkosh Public Schools because of Act 10?
Well, I'm not the one being asked the questions here.
Okay.
I'm asking the questions.
But see, I think what you're doing is you're generalizing, and I mean I could speak.
But you guys don't disagree. The governor cut a serious amount of money out of the education budget.
He cut the funding, but the funding didn't result in student cuts.
He cut the funding, but it's up to the people on the school board to decide where that money goes. And I think the school board rightly decided, because now they have the power to increase the contributions to the pensions and the health care, and to freeze the salaries that we had.
So do you believe, Paul, that we need additional cuts in K through 12?
I have no idea. I have not reviewed. Obviously, haven't reviewed in any detail.
Okay.
Where we need more cuts, if any.
Okay, but if in your district, Chancellor Wells, whoever the next school superintendent is, they come to you and they say, Paul, you're our representative. Go down to Madison and fight for more funding for us.
I would say, Chancellor Wells, how much did it cost for the Taj Mahal that we just built, the administrative building? How much did it cost for the new dorms that we have? How much did it cost for the parking ramp that we have? Where is this money coming from? And can we use that money? Buildings never taught a student. Buildings never taught a student. So why aren't we using that money to help teach students?
But I know that you know that student tuition has been going up at astronomical rates.
Right.
So if
it's because all these professors that are making so much money.
Right, we're making so much money, right? So if you were in the assembly and students come to you and say, Assemblyman Esslinger, help us do something about our tuition, do you believe that the government should do something to try and reduce the tuition?
I don't know, Tony. I don't know what the tuition is, and
it's
how
high.
much it is high. But why is that? I mean, you have to review why it's high to begin with.
Well, it's high.
We're getting like waved at here.
We have about 45 seconds left. Yeah. If you want to take about 20 seconds, do you want to let the viewers know how they could get involved in your campaign or how they can contact you? What do you have established for
Absolutely. I think there's 30 seconds left. So I'll just say you can go to esslingerforassembly.com. And as we're taping this, it's actually not up, but hopefully by the time this airs, it will be up. I'll have a bio, accomplishments, political philosophy, and probably a few other things on there. So esslingerforassembly.com, or I'm in the phone book. By all means, give me a call.
All right. Well, on that note, I'd like to thank everybody for tuning in. Thank Tony for being a guest interviewer. He's certainly tough, and we appreciate that. So on that note, I'd like to thank you once again for viewing us, and we would like to wish you a good night and God bless.